Welcome to the Rise Inside podcast, hosted by Justin Starbird and powered by RISE Robotics. Listen as host Justin talks to experts from the RISE team about topics relating to mechanical engineering, industrial design, commercialization, and innovation. True collaborations work when ideas are integrated at inception to solve significant problems. Rise Inside brings together how the team continues to work with great folks to commercialize ideas. You're listening to the Rise Inside podcast. Here's your host, Justin Starbird.
Welcome back to Rise Inside. My name is Justin Starbird, and today I have Kurt Walker, product manager for Anthony Liftgates, with me. Kurt, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hey, thanks for joining. It's really neat to have a guest from Anthony Liftgates join us today. How is everything in Pontiac, Illinois?
Thanks for having me. It's a beautiful day here in Pontiac.
Great. Well, congratulations are in order here at RISE. You know, family is very important. So congratulations on the new addition to your family as well.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Being a dad myself, especially of two girls, I can relate, and it's very exciting. So I'm really happy for you. No problems putting off an interview for a little while for something of that nature. It's very exciting.
Yeah.
So Kurt, thanks for joining me today. There's a lot of exciting things going on with Anthony Liftgates and RISE Robotics. But before we jump into some of that stuff, tell me a little bit about, who are Anthony Liftgates and a little bit about your company.
So the Anthony story goes back to, I guess, at the earliest, 1917. The name arose by a guy named William Anthony and his brothers and a couple of business partners. Came up with some innovations for the new fledgling transportation industry, which were added to Ford Model Ts. Fast forward about 30 years, in the 40s, the owner of the company had a right-hand man who happened to be my great-grandfather. He was approached by a guy in the shop who had an idea for a liftgate, and they ended up collaborating with the owner and putting together what we see as the Anthony Liftgate that was released in the 40s. Long story short, we ended up bringing the company back into our family and actually owning the liftgate line back in about 1980. And we take pride in building an American-made products still. We try to build high quality. That's kind of what we do.
Yeah, that's great. Today, who obviously you service the transportation industry, but which parts? A lot of people just see a trailer and don't think that there's any significant differences between the two. Tell us a little bit about what you guys add to that. So maybe this will answer the question. I guess the way I see the industry, there's two sides of it. There's like commercial deliveries, and then we have utility type gates. On the commercial delivery side, that's the bulk of the liftgate market that you would see on a truck or a trailer, and they're out there moving product all day long. So anywhere there's a dock loading typically and no dock to unload, that's a perfect spot for a liftgate. There's some industries that use them heavily, some use them a little bit. And then there's guys that have a liftgate on the back of the truck just to sort of help them do a job on the road. So you may see like a pickup type gate on the back of a tire truck or a plumber's truck or something like that. But sure, they're all doing basically the same thing, which is helping a person load and unload a heavy load onto a truck bed. So we're using pretty much throughout the entire industry using hydraulics to get that job done, to move the heavy load. Yep.
Years ago, there still are models that aren't hydraulic, but I would say it's 99.9% hydraulic liftgates out there.
Sure. And so the liftgate, you think about an elevator, and you're lifting heavy loads to bring them up somewhere. Liftgate does the opposite, right?
Yeah. Most liftgates, we say most liftgates are unloading. They call them liftgates, but they'd be, better known as lower or delivery gates most of the time, because
most of the work they're doing is just dropping product, though they are rated to lift what they say they rated.
Right, of course. Well, before I jump into a couple other questions about liftgates, what is your role, Kurt? You have quite the legacy to carry on with your grandfather, having been such an important part of the history of the company.
Sure. I started out about 7.5 years, came back to the family business in a sales and marketing role. So I started out refreshing web materials, brochures, and just sort of gravitated toward more product design type work. Just trying to do better, faster, cheaper. That's kind of the way I see what today's economy calls for in most manufacturing type businesses. That's what people want. So make the gates better, get them to people faster, and keep the cost down. That's kind of what I've been engaged in for probably the past 4 or 5 years. And that's my job nowadays.
Yeah, that's exciting. And you oversee a specific product, or a product line within the company, correct?
Yeah, there's a lot of overlap with myself and the other product manager here, but I'm technically in charge of the tuck under line, which is the most popular style in North America. And they're the type that fold under the back of the truck. And we have several different models in that line, and I'm kind of have P&L responsibility for making sure they succeed.
Yeah, sure. No pressure then, huh?
Yeah.
Keeping the family business alive, right? So that's exciting. When you think about how Anthony was really a pioneer, as the transportation industry, got off to a rocket start in the early days, how do you keep that pioneering spirit alive today and keep innovation, going as, you have so many companies that are really set in their ways? How does Anthony continue to be, able to innovate?
We have quite a few people here who work with tools all the time. They're wrenching on stuff on the weekend. They grew up on a farm, that kind of stuff. They like to weld as a hobby, that kind of stuff. So we work with tools a lot, and we always see sort of a better way to do things when we can. And I think everybody shares our urgency here that if you're not making things better, someone else will. We still feel, a lot of pressure from competition and from just a general sense that things can generally be made better. And we're constantly trying to push on that.
As somebody that kind of started in marketing through the company, how do you, get that message out there and let your customers know? How do you share that right now?
In our industry, I have a pretty simple approach. We got to have a good website. Everybody's got to have a good website nowadays to sort of distill the message down pretty simple. There's still actually a lot of person-to-person meetings to sell a liftgate. So our guys are trained and are out there talking to our customer base all the time on the benefits of our product.
Yeah, that's great. And when you think about other areas of the company that make it you unique, how do you incorporate culture into that? How do you take that entrepreneurial engineers from the farm and bring it to mass transportation?
Trying to think of how to answer that best.
No, I listen, I'm from, I come from the Northeast and, in New England. And, one of the things that's so fascinating is you have this like pioneering can-do spirit, right, guys? And folks from all over, like you had said, go home on the weekend and putter or, make new things. And where you're based there in Middle America as well, in Pontiac, Illinois, you are fortunate to have the same sort of spirit. And what's fascinating to me, I think, is that from the outside looking in a lot of ways, you've been able to capture that culture from being home and apply it to solving mass transportation problems. I know we've talked a little bit in the past about some of the issues that face common lift gates, and it's so neat to know or to hear that so many of the components from Anthony are made here in the U.S. And so I guess my question was, how do you encourage that culture to be really hands-on, to take that, puttering around the farm or around the house on the weekend and help folks realize that, they have an opportunity to really make an impact in the transportation space around the U.S.
Yeah. So what I've found trying to push on engineering efforts over the past few years is the people who really hit the ground running and do a great job with engineering type stuff are those that do this as a hobby. So if you can hire somebody that, works on hot rods on the weekends, that kind of thing, they kind of have a passion for it already. And we try to just encourage that and make everybody see that what they're doing can really hit the bottom line. And we're a small enough company, and we have a pretty flat organizational structure, so that anybody in the company can walk into anybody's office and pitch an idea, or just talk about anything they want to, and that helps everybody see how their efforts, I guess, really can translate to the bottom line.
Sure.
So when people see that good customer service can keep a good customer around, or they see that this new design let us sell another 100 units or something, I think it's motivating. Mm-hmm. We try to keep that culture here.
Yeah, that's awesome. When you think about that culture and the fact that folks are really solving problems, let's talk a little bit about, what compromises a lift gate, or, what are some of the issues that delivery companies, face on a day-to-day basis?
So it's often been a story of uptime, a lot of little glitches over the years, probably back in the 70s and 80s. I don't think the industry was really up to snuff on where quality could be. And you could say that about automotive at large, maybe in the 80s. In the past 10, 20 years, we've all really cleaned that up. There were small things, even back in the 90s, that heat shrink terminals, things like that, weren't even standards. So you'd get corrosion, you'd get failed electrical connections. Everybody sort of stepped up their game on that, and that's good. I know we led the charge on a lot of that stuff, just making liftgates better and more reliable. Nowadays, there's still plenty of frustrations, I think, with liftgates, and they are primarily, I'd say 60 to 70% of the time, are electrically related. And there's a lot of things that fall into that category, but liftgates not getting adequate power can really decrease their service life and cause more road service calls. Mm-hmm. I think that's kind of a really widespread problem that maybe is often undiagnosed, is that liftgates don't see the power they should to run reliably.
Right. So, that kind of leads me into that Anthony and RISE have, created a partnership. How does, this strategic alliance with RISE, help solve your customers' biggest problems?
Yeah. So semi-trailers are getting liftgates more and more. They've been on there for decades. We've got pictures from back in the 50s where liftgates were on semi-trailers, but never been that common. It seems to be growing a little bit lately. And when you do that, you have to have standalone power to power that liftgate on the trailer. And charging that standalone power can be a task. Trying to get power from the truck alternator. There's been other solutions to try to make that work. The industry's really tried to figure out the best way to do that over the past 10 or 15 years. And there's been some innovative things, DC to DC converters to help boost the power. But on top of that, we're seeing a larger push for efficiency, and we don't want liftgates to be a large power drag on a vehicle. That becomes especially important if you're talking about electric trucks. Mm-hmm. You can really hamper the range
of the vehicle if a liftgate's running a lot and dragging a lot of power out of the battery. So the RISE solution to us is a means of making a liftgate just way more efficient. Liftgates, hydraulics by nature are not very efficient. They're really powerful, really versatile. They're everywhere. They're great. But when power consumption, total power consumption is important, you got to really start looking at something else to try to, be more efficient. And the RISE system allows us to do that.
And how does it integrate really efficiently into your current operations? I mean, from my perspective, it seems like it's a really natural fit. How did Anthony end up deciding to make this move?
It took a little while, a little back and forth to really understand what the proposal was, because it's something that's so totally new. We've dabbled in other motion technologies, ball screw, linear actuators, and a lot of time spent trying to make our hydraulics more efficient. And when we started talking to the RISE guys, there was a lot of can-do attitude, like, yeah, we can fit that in your existing products pretty close. You don't have to reinvent the wheel here. We can make that work. And so far that's been the case. So obviously there's some re-engineering to get the hydraulics out of the machine, but it's a fairly clean fit for what we put in this type of gate.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you think about opportunities that creates for a company that led the charge and was innovating way back at the start, what does that do for the team and I guess you in your role leading a couple of product lines?
Can you repeat, ask that a different way, I suppose?
Sure. Well, let me pause for just a second.
I lost my train of thought there.
No, that's okay. All right, hold on just a second. With that spirit and can-do attitude that RISE has brought to the Anthony partnership, what kind of opportunities does that create for you to present to your customers?
Oh yeah, the potential, sales potential of the innovation of the RISE product, we think is huge, because it's so new and different from what's out there right now. And a lot of people's frustrations have to do with keeping the liftgates running, keeping a good charge on the batteries. If this allows us to increase reliability, make a truck have a longer range, that's a really big selling feature to push people toward our rail lift versus others. And we're excited about that. It's something new and very unique.
Has it energized the company at all? And do you see it as a real differentiator?
I think so. We've kept it pretty tight-lipped, I guess, inside the company. So there's only a handful of people that realize what we're working on. But of those that are doing it, I think everybody just kind of is really excited to see where it goes. It's going to be interesting. It'll be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you think that it positions you in the marketplace differently? And I mean, we haven't made a lot of these things public, even we're recording this in advance of making it public. But do you think when it does get out there, it'll really help position you and put you forward?
Yeah. We have always tried to be on the innovating side of the industry, willing to try a lot of new things. And this is definitely one of the more ambitious, times we've done that. And it's right in line with what we like to do.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, it's pretty cool to see two companies coming together with different trajectories to all be pulling in the same direction. So it's really neat to be a part of something like this. Mm-hmm. What else have you seen from the partnership so far?
It's been great so far. Anytime we design a new product, we always realize there's gonna be a lot of hurdles to get over. You're gonna put a lot of time into design and have to shift and go a different direction with it. And naturally, anything's gonna have that, but
it's worked well, and we're pretty happy with it.
That's great. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time today to speak with me, Kurt, and sharing a little bit more about Anthony Liftgates and your position and how you guys came to be. I really appreciate it. Thanks for coming.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. And congratulations one last time.
And thanks again. Yeah.
This will be a seminal moment too. So it's very exciting. For all of us here at RISE, you've been listening to RISE Inside. Thanks. Until next time.
You have been listening to the RISE Inside podcast, presented by RISE Robotics. On behalf of our guest today and host Justin Starbird, thank you for listening. Please share your feedback on our LinkedIn page, linkedin.com/company/RISE-robotics.